Zero-day exploits are a major concern for both organizations and individuals. Incident responders often fear handling unknown threats because they lack predefined defenses and require new methods for detection and response. These exploits represent vulnerabilities that can be targeted before they are even known to exist. In this episode, we will talk about what zero-day exploits are, how they are discovered and utilized, and the strategies that can be employed to defend against them. You're listening to the Cyber Riddler, where we decipher the offensive and defensive side of the cyber world. I'm Ahmed Mraga. To start, let's define what we mean by a zero-day exploit. A zero-day exploit refers to a cyber attack that targets a software vulnerability that is unknown to the software vendor or those who are responsible for patching or mitigating the vulnerability. The term zero-day signifies that developers have had 0 days to fix the flaw before it's exploited. Because the vulnerabilities is unknown, there are no defenses in place, making these types of exploits extremely dangerous. Zero-day exploits can affect various types of software, including operating systems, web browsers, applications, and even firmware. They can be used to steal data, install malware, disrupt services, and gain unauthorized access to the systems. The life cycle of a zero-day exploit can be broken down into several stages. The first stage is the discovery of the vulnerability. This can happen in several ways. Researchers or hackers might find vulnerabilities through manual testing. Some may call this stage as R&D, research and development. Another way is to use automated tools, or by analyzing source code. Sometimes, believe it or not, vulnerabilities are discovered by accident. The researcher is doing a research on something, and then another issue arises that wasn't the target in the first place. The researcher will pivot into that issue, and then he found a strange behavior that led to the discovery of a new vulnerability outside the scope of the original research. The second stage is weaponization. Once a vulnerability is found, it needs to be weaponized, meaning the creation of a working exploit that can take advantage of the vulnerability. This step requires significant skills. You may ask why, right? To break it down for you, a researcher could find a vulnerability theoretically, but he doesn't have the skills to implement it due to many restrictions and the way of gaining access to the system primitives in the code itself. That's why you can see some CVEs that doesn't have a public exploit for a while, but certain companies already wrote an exploit for it, and then they use it in their software. Eventually, you can find a public release for it, and then some hacker groups start weaponizing their malware with this vulnerability. The third stage is delivery. The next stage is delivering the exploit to the target system. This could be done through various means, such as phishing emails, malicious websites, infected USBs, or compromised software updates. There are a lot of ways for delivering the malware, but hackers usually see the easiest option for them and their intention of delivering the malware by asking themselves the question, which is, do we want to target a lot of people, or it's a targeted attack which only targets few people with it? The fourth stage is exploitation. After the exploit is delivered, it executes the attack by exploiting the vulnerability. This can lead to different outcomes such as remote code execution, privilege escalation, or data exfiltration. The bottom line, the attacker will gain access to your system, and then they do what they want to do with it. But still, sometimes even after all of this hard work of writing the exploit, delivering it, shit can happen. Maybe the Windows build doesn't have the vulnerability because vulnerabilities exist in other builds, like what happened in SMB Ghost. Or sometimes the system state is corrupted due to multiple attempts of exploiting the vulnerability. So the machine was vulnerable, but the state of which the system should be on is not the same anymore, like many vulnerabilities such as Plokeep. The fifth and final stage is detection and response. Finally, once the exploit is used, it may be detected by security tools or reported by a user. At this point, the software vendor and security community work to analyze the exploit, develop patch, and deploy it to affected systems. This stage could take a lot of time to happen, as some hackers are delivering the exploit to certain people and then delete the artifact so no one can know anything about it, and they can use it for a long period of time. It could be months, years, but sometimes one incident can happen, and then the logs will be sent to the security vendors and start analyzing the raw data, and then they discover the exploit even though the hackers were cautious, but the logs already sent. There are many case studies. To better understand the impact of zero-day exploits, let's discuss a few notable case studies. Stuxnet. Perhaps the most famous zero-day exploit is a Stuxnet. Sophisticated worm discovered in 2010, Stuxnet targeted industrial control systems, specifically those used in Iran's nuclear program. It exploited multiple zero-day vulnerabilities in Windows to spread and sabotage centrifuges. Stuxnet is a prime example of how zero-day exploits can be used for cyber warfare and industrial sabotage. It used 4 0 days so they can take control of the system. The second case study is the Aurora attack in 2009. A series of cyber attacks known as Operation Aurora targeted several major companies, including Google. The attackers exploited zero-day vulnerability in Internet Explorer to gain access to the company networks and to steal intellectual property. This attack highlighted the importance of browser security and led to significant changes on how companies approach cybersecurity. There are a lot of operations that use 0 days. Zero-day exploits are highly valuable in the cybersecurity world, and there is a thriving market for them. This market can be divided into 2 main segments: the black market and the white market. On the black market, zero-day exploits are bought and sold by cyber criminals, nation-state, and other malicious actors. These transactions often take place on the dark web where anonymity is preserved. Prices for zero-day exploits can vary widely depending on the target software and the potential impact of the exploit. High-value targets like popular operating systems and widely used applications command higher prices. On the other hand, we have the white market. The white market involves legitimate sales and disclosure of zero-day exploits. Security researchers and ethical hackers can sell their findings to software vendors who then patch the vulnerabilities. Bug bounty programs offered by companies like Google, Microsoft, and Facebook reward researchers for discovering and responsibly disclosing vulnerabilities. Additionally, some firms specialize in finding and selling zero-day exploits to government agencies for defensive and offensive cyber attacks operations. Okay, so let's talk about how you can defend yourself against zero-day exploits. To be honest, defending against zero-day exploits is a significant challenge due to their unknown nature. However, there are several strategies and best practices that organizations can adopt to mitigate the risk. Let me be clear here. It's really hard to prepare and detect 0 days. For many reasons, the signature-based approach is ineffective because at this stage we don't have signatures yet. But at least you can understand some rules that make the life of an attacker a living hell. For example, if an attacker manages to do an attack by using a 0 day, but you made the environment so locked out for his C2 to connect, the attacker will have a hard time to connect to the payload. You could argue that maybe the payload will send a callback, but what about if you had a policy against newly registered domains? It will block the request either way. I know there are so many bypasses. I'm just giving you the example so you can think about it from a different aspect. So, the attackers have a valid 0 day exploit, but he couldn't manage to connect back, and this limited the attack a little bit. And the attackers have to find new ways to get access to the payload. And you never know, maybe one of his attempts will allow your SOC to detect and investigate the host. The second thing I want to talk about is the behavioral analysis. Traditional signature-based detection methods are ineffective against 0 day exploits. Instead, behavioral analysis and anomaly detection can help identify unusual activities that may indicate an exploit. If you found the word application tried to spawn a PowerShell process, you can sense that something is abnormal here, and so on. As technology evolves, the methods are too. and tools used by attackers and defenders, the future of zero-day exploits will likely to be shaped by advancement in AI or artificial intelligence, machine learning, and quantum computing. AI can be used to discover vulnerabilities more quicker and develop sophisticated exploits. However, AI can also be leveraged to enhance defensive capabilities such as predictive analytics and automated response systems. Machine learning algorithms can improve threat detection by identifying patterns and anomalies that may indicate zero-day exploits. These systems can continuously learn and adopt new methods. The final thoughts I want to leave you with is, while zero-day is a buzzword that many are familiar with, I aim to present the concept in a structured and architectural manner. This approach helps you think about it systematically and organize your thoughts, so the next time you hear zero day, you will remember this episode, recall the life cycle we discussed, and have clearer understanding of the topic. You have been listening to the Cyber Riddler. Zero day researching is fun, but it requires a lot of work and months of research. Don't forget to share this episode with anyone you think is interested in the topic. Follow us on X, aka Twitter, at Almorabe, ALMORABEA, and the podcast page at Cyber Riddler. See you in the next episode.